Welcome back, Stasa23 here, back again with some knife therapy, and today I have for you the PICAROON Tools Mutineer. Yeah, you heard me right, the Mutineer. I found them off of Etsy. It's a company out of Bulgaria, and they make pirate stylized EDC items. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I'm pretty sure that this is their first folding knife design, and they also have a small scimitar style fixed blade, EDC style fixed blade called the JackTar. It looked interesting. I'm thinking about picking it up, and I'm getting this review out to you now because there is a pre-order up on his Etsy page for the Mutineer second run or third, I don't know what run he's on, and the JackTar, and it will be ending May 2022, just in case you watch this in the future, long after the thing's over with, so just check the date. But this knife right here is a small compact EDC folder. The OEM for the knife is Best Tech Knives. They do some really good work, and let's see the specs of this knife so you can have an idea of the actual size. You have a total length of 6.5 inches, a blade length of 2.95 inches, a grip area from there to the back of 3.6 inches, a pretty skinny handle scale thickness of 0.48, blade stock thickness of 0.125, and the behind the edge thickness on this particular knife is around 15 thousandths at the thinnest portion, which is nice and thin. However, it is sharpened at 28 degrees per side. So first off, I love the aesthetics of the Mutineer. It has that rustic vibe, or should I say a pirate vibe. You have this dark blasted finish that is throughout the entire knife with a nice stone wash finish on it. I think it's a nice, attractive aesthetic, and I love a good warnie. The blade steel is S35VN stainless steel, which is a good high-end premium steel. And it has a flat saber ground blade. I would have definitely rathered to see a nice hollow, being that you don't have a lot of height for the flat grind. I did notice that it did struggle on the the different size tubings, because the apex is pretty darn steep at 28 degrees per side. That's a pretty steep bevel. Definitely don't think it was performing to its potential. If this was dropped down to, say, 17 degrees per side, I think it would have performed a little bit better. That said, it did all the tasks, and it did them well. It just didn't, wow me. It's going to accelerate on, your hammer grip style cuts. When I was cutting into the cardboard, it just felt natural because of that Wharncliffe blade. And you also have this like little guard area for whenever you're all the way up on that blade, nice and locked in. And also that nice fine tip right there is excellent for those detailed oriented tasks, doing those drag cuts through cardboard. The knife, it did remain sharp throughout all the testing, and at the end of the testing, before I sharpened it up myself, I was able to hit it on my balsa wood strops with 1 micron diamond paste, diamond emulsions, and I was able to bring it back to hair shaving sharp. So the heat treat on it, usually you got a nice proper heat treat, especially if it's capable of being able to be stropped back, depending on the steel, of course. And it did take a nice bite to it once I got it off the strop. So that's always nice to see. You have on this side, you got their logo, the Mutineer logo, the PICAROON Tools logo right there. Pretty cool. And on this side, you have the name of the knife, which I could have done without that on there. It's on the box as well. And the blade steel designation, which is just fine right there. You do have a nice row of jimping right there that I'd call it maybe medium traction. It doesn't bite that well, but it's a good indexing point at least. The spine has a nice little spot indentation that you can place your thumb whenever you're in the saber grip holding the knife. That is very comfortable, and that was my go-to means of using it whenever I was cutting stuff. You do not have a sharpening choil. It goes all the way to the back, which that's something I wish I could have seen. And that's for two reasons, and I'll talk about the second reason in a little bit later. But you can see that edge goes all the way up to the back right here, termination, and this is after the first sharpening with the fixed angled system. I started digging into that plunge line, so I'm going to be cutting my own notch into there after the review. All right, on to the action of the knife. It's got a nice positive detent that allows the blade to fly out. You do have a blade hole for deployment that is accessible left and right-handed. As you can see, you can easily get to it left-handed, thumb roll it, and I don't think I can't spotty flick it left-handed. It's too hard for me. Can I thumb flick it? Yeah, I can semi thumb flick it left-handed. But right-handed, I found that the spotty flick method was the easiest deployment method for me with this type of thumb hole and these skinnier scales, because I'm grabbing onto the pocket clip and then situating my hand like this and then kind of grabbing the end of the hole right there to put my fingernail into. My medium-sized hands work fine for that. I can also thumb flick it, and I can also slow roll it. You just need to keep your fingers off that lock bar whenever you do thumb flick it and when you do slow roll it. I just found that the thumb access good, but I have to be conscious of where my hand is on the knife in order to get to the hole and in order to make it work properly. So the thumb flick is a lot more natural, in my opinion, of a deployment method. It's riding on caged ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent ball. The action's pretty good. It's smooth, snappy, and that's all I really care about. As far as the closure, the blade's a little light. Give it a few shakes and it'll go back to its home. That's perfectly fine with me as well. And let's move on to the scale area. As you can see, they kept everything with that blasted stonewash finish. I like how they kept everything looking uniform. You have T8 hardware throughout the entire knife. As you can see there, nice crisp hardware. There's no slop in the hardware whenever I was putting my Torx driver in there. You have a very large lanyard hole in the back. I would have loved to see that hidden into the backspacer or something, because that just takes away from the cleanness of this design, in my opinion, especially with that nice blasted, smooth stonewash finish. I think it would have looked great without that hole there, but that's just me, and I get it. Some people with a smaller knife like to have a lanyard so they got something else to hold on to, so I get it. I just wish it would have been like a post in the back, kind of hidden. You have very, very nice and contoured titanium scales that have that blasted stonewash finish and the blasted finish on the hardware as well. So like I said, they matched everything. And besides the nice soft contour there, I don't know, depending on where we're at in the video, there is a small chamfer at the end of the contour, so you don't have any hard edges that would become sharp. Very nicely done by Bestech there, keeping it nice and comfortable in hand. So the ergos on the knife were outstanding, especially doing, the day-to-day style task, anything in that hammer grip, that saber grip. The only things that I noticed it struggled with, like I said, first is the tubing, and being the style of the knife and the Wharncliffe blade. Anytime you have that straight blade like that, trying to cut onto a cutting board, my knuckles are going to hit the board before the blade gets down. So whenever I did the rope cutting, you'll see where I had a little block of wood on top of the board so I could lift it up from the surface, and that way I could have clearance from my hands whenever I was cutting the rope. It did fine with the rope after I did that, but that's just something I wanted to share with y'all. Also, the only other besides, just the day-to-day task, whenever I move to the wood, I do that to test ergos, somewhat see how the edge is still biting, and if you had to do that in a pinch, make some feather sticks or something, you could do it. But also because I can put a lot of pressure into cutting into something, like say if you had to cut some heavy duty rubber or you had to cut into a tire or something, it's going to require a lot of force pushing down. And that's why I do the wood, because I can really make it bite into the wood hard and push hard. And you'll see, if there's any hot spots on the handle. And another key thing that I always see whenever I do that is how the handle's holding up in the hand. Like, is it twisting? Is it pushing on me? Is it sliding in my hand? And one thing I did notice with this one, because of its thin nature of these handles and the thin thickness of the scales, whenever I'm doing that very hard pushing into stuff, the scales it's kind of wanting to shift in my hand, and because of that, I'm squeezing a lot tighter and causing my whole entire arm to fatigue very quickly. So not something I'll probably have this knife in that type of role, but just something I wanted you to be aware of if that's what you're buying the knife for. Personally, I don't think it's a big enough knife to be doing all that kind of stuff comfortably, so that's why I would choose another tool for the job. But if this is all you had, you could get it done. You'd just be a little worn out after. All right, let's take a look at the pocket clip. You have a milled titanium pocket clip that matches the rest of the finishes, and it is right-handed tip up only. Sorry about that, lefties. But let's take a look at it in the pocket. All right, here's the knife in the pocket. It's not deep carry clip, but you don't have a whole lot sticking out. It does hug the side of the pants really nicely. It goes in and out of all my pants pretty good. I didn't have any issues getting it in and out. And you can get your hand in there without an issue if you put other stuff in the pocket. All right, now let's move on to the lock. You have a nice solid lockup. I'd say at around 50%. There's absolutely no play in any direction whatsoever. Bestech does a good job of doing their lockups. I've spine whacked a lot of their knives before, and they all pass. Access to the lock bar is, I'm just going to say it's okay. You can see it's flush with the show side scale. So what they did is they put two chamfers on each side of the scales right there to be able to get your thumb in there. But you don't have a whole lot of space in there. So once again, I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately. I use the side part of my thumb, the fat of my thumb, to slide the lock bar over, and that's the easiest method for me. I can get my thumb in there. It's just not as comfortable for me, and I don't feel like I have as much of a grip on that lock than I do using this part of my thumb to slide it over. So it's not a deal breaker for me, but something I want y'all to know just in case that is a problem for you. Quick size comparison: Spyderco PM2, Spyderco Para 3. The Civivi bow and the Spyderco stovepipe, both great size comparisons as far as length. The stovepipe reminded me a lot of the Picaroon tools, except the Picaroon tools was a little bit, it was a good bit more comfortable in hand to use. Ontario Rat 1, Ontario Rat 2. All right, let's get a quick weight on the knife. First in grams, 81.89 grams, very lightweight. Mo 2.888 ounces, super awesome. So that meets that criteria for some of y'all, I think. I don't remember what the exact blade length, but yep. All right, now to my nitpicks and complaints. I have several, but I still like the knife. I'm just going to say that before I start saying all this. One thing that I noticed, and I don't know if this would ever be an issue, but I did notice look how thin the titanium is by the pivot where the lock cutout is. Hopefully y'all can see that good. But it's very thin. I don't know if that'll ever be an issue. I don't think I'll ever be using this knife hard enough to make it an issue, but just something I wanted to show y'all. Now it does have a slight little chamfer right there, so it may make it look thinner than it actually is. Next thing, I would have loved to see a sharpening notch put in there, just so whenever I sharpen this, I don't have to, get a big thick spot right there in the back. And that said, I would have loved to see this ground with a hollow grind, but as it is, I'm fine with it. I just the 28 degrees per side is way too thick for me. I don't like to, if I'm going to reprofile something, I don't like to have it any more than 20 degrees per side. My sweet spot's around 16, 17, and 18 degrees per side's what I like a lot of my knives at, especially in, you know, the higher end steels. We also talked about the lock access. You know, I guess it could have taken this down a little bit right here, put a little, you know, indentation, or made this a little bit wider. That said, you know, the aesthetics look really nice as is. I can easily disengage it with that side of my finger. So, you know, I don't know, unless that's a deal breaker for you. You can use your thumb. It's just, I don't find it as comfortable as using the side of my thumb, so that's just the way I'm going to do it. And this last thing, I know will probably be a deal breaker for some people, but, you know, I tell but like I see it. And one thing I noticed right off the back when I got the knife, and this is a big no-no for me too, is, I don't know, let's see if I can show y'all this. You see that? See that sticking up right there? That is the heel of the blade. Now, the edge, the actual edge is right there because I sharpened it all the way to the back after, you know, I tested the knife. So I could potentially cut myself, because I can rub my finger right here. You can see it's sticking above. I could rub my finger and feel it. Now, I carried this knife a good bit, and I had my hands in my pocket, and I didn't have that. I didn't have any issue. But one thing that would have solved that is to put a sharpening notch, or cut this back, you know, at an angle, which I'm probably going to do after the review. That way, that part of the edge would not have been there, or they could have brought this back spacer all the way to right there to that heel and just notched out the inside of the back spacer. You know, there's two methods that would have taken care of the issue. Now, I don't know if I said the price yet or not, but it is sitting at $195. Now, yes, that is pretty steep. I did a lot of research, and most of the knives that I saw that were in S35 VN titanium frame locks run from around $145 all the way up to $200. $200 being the very steep end of the market. Now, I'm guessing these are done small batch. I mean, they take in pre-orders, and you got to pay a deposit. I think, yeah, you got to pay a deposit in order to get into the pre-order. So he knows how many he's ordering. And I'm not sure how much it costs to ship the knife from Bulgaria. So those are two factors that I don't really know. Without knowing those factors, I think this knife, as it sits, would have been perfect at about $155. That's how I see the knife. Like I said, it could cost, you know, $15 to ship it. I have no clue. I don't even know. I don't remember how he shipped this to me in the first place. I think it was in like a bubble wrapped envelope. But, you know, that's a decision you got to make with all the nitpicks I talked about. Are any of those deal breakers? Is the price a deal breaker? I'm happy with the knife. I'm even contemplating on getting in on the pre-order so I can get one of the micarta S35 titanium frame locks. Because before, the only way you could get a micarta show scale was to get it in D2, and the price was definitely too steep for me with the D2 version. So I don't know. I like the knife. I say if you like the overall aesthetics, like I said, and my deal breakers weren't deal breakers for you, then I say go for it. You know, that's about all I can say on that part. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. And I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.